Things had not been going well for the YouTuber Theft King. You're going to pay me $10,000 cash, or I'm going to leak this video. I clicked play and suddenly I was staring at my 19-year-old self sitting in the back seat of a car shooting heroin using the seatbelt as a tourniquet. I didn't even know this video existed. I had just been canceled on Twitter for telling someone to burn for eternity. In the wake of that, my channel lost 20,000 subscribers, and despite making more videos than ever before, my channel revenue fell by 50% compared to prior months. Even worse, I had just quit my job 2 weeks prior to give full-time YouTube a shot, and while I had saved a lot of money in the first half of the year, it was still awful. I figured that things couldn't get much worse when out of nowhere I was contacted by, let's say, someone who calls themselves a content creator in the FNAF community. I'm not going to say who it was because I guess it's conceivable that they weren't involved in this whole blackmail thing, although frankly I'm really skeptical of that. There's someone who, from my understanding, is not very fond of me. I'm not sure why exactly, I barely know who this person is, and I doubt many of you would know who they are either. So out of nowhere, this other content creator tells me that someone reached out to them and provided evidence and claims that I had been arrested and charged with 4 felonies when I was a teenager. Which was true. I had been arrested and charged with a bunch of felonies when I was a teenager, and actually even thrown in jail once. I've already revealed my past struggles with heroin many times. On the day I post this video, it'll actually be exactly 1 year since I last shot dope. If you want to learn more about that, you can check out this video, I guess. I'm not going to go into that here, but I'm proud that it's been a year, obviously. That's crazy to think about. So I was obviously horrified that this other creator, who I know isn't very fond of me, had somehow come to learn these embarrassing personal things about me, but I didn't know exactly how much they knew, and I wasn't going to reveal anything else to them, so I asked them where they'd heard these things and if they had any proof of them. I was hoping that they didn't have any compelling evidence and that I could just sort of ignore it, but deep down I knew that they must have something on me. I mean, what they were asking me about was true. I was arrested and charged with 4 felonies, so if this stranger was asking me about it, they surely had some sort of evidence. It turned out they had heard about it through an old acquaintance of mine who we'll call William. This was super random. Like, William was a fellow junkie that ran in some of the same circles that I did back in the day. We were never very close though. They were more like a mutual friend, you know, maybe 4 of us would pool our money for gas or whatever and then drive down to Harlem or Patterson to go buy dope, and William would often tag along. We weren't like friends though, we didn't hang out, you know? When I got clean a year ago, I cut off all communication with basically everyone I knew from my drug days, but through some mutual friends, I was able to get back in touch with William, and I reached out to them to find out what the hell was going on. It turned out that when my controversy happened and a lot of people started talking about me on Twitter, coincidentally, William took notice. For reference, William is a gamer, but as far as I know, they're not a FNAF fan or anything like that. That said, I knew them before FNAF 1 had even come out, so maybe they are a FNAF fan, who knows. Either way, William learned about my channel through the controversy, checked out my face reveal, and then saw me and recognized me. They then went to this other content creator who, let's just say, doesn't like me, and told them. I got in touch with William and we spoke. Apparently, William is still struggling with heroin, and that tends to mean that one is also struggling with money. Presuming that my YouTube success has surely been lucrative for me, which admittedly it has, I mean, I'm not pretending it hasn't. William got the brilliant idea to blackmail me. After discovering my YouTube success, they dug through old cell phones and laptops and found several things that would be quite embarrassing if shared today. Videos of me doing drugs, videos of me, you know, nodding out, unconscious on the floor, stuff like that. Furthermore, William threatened to reveal the details of my arrest and the subsequent felonies I was charged with. How did William know the details? Because he was with me that night. In fact, it's especially infuriating that this person would try to blackmail me for $10,000 because they were the reason I was arrested and charged with all those felonies in the first place. You see, I had gone to meet William one night to make a drug deal. Now, let me make something very clear. I was never a drug dealer or anything like that. I mean, look at me. Do I look like someone who could deal drugs? I would be robbed and killed immediately. I did drugs. I didn't sell them. That said, if I happened to have a bunch of dope on me and someone in our group like William was sick, you know, in withdrawals and desperately needed some, I would sell him a little bit and help him out. You know, he would do the same for me if the situation was reversed. I know firsthand how painful withdrawals are, so I said fine and told him to come over, that I'd sell him 20 bucks a dope or whatever. He said no, he couldn't make it over, and he begged me to drive to him. So this was the first really suspicious thing. Normally a desperate junkie like that who has access to a car would much rather go get the drugs themselves than wait for them. Furthermore, I was basically doing him a favor. Why should I go all the way to him to make $20? It wasn't worth it, and I told him no. William begged me to come to him and offered to pay me triple the price I had paid if I did. $60. This was actually a little less suspicious to me just because it seemed like he really didn't have his car, but he did have money. Being a broke junkie myself and knowing that I could sell $20 of dope and then go buy $60 worth, I agreed. He had me meet him in a parking lot with a McDonald's and some other stores. I was annoyed when he pulled up next to me in his car. Clearly he had access to it and he could have come to me after all, but whatever, I'd come all this way and he had offered me quite a lot of money. I got into his car and we drove around the parking lot and made the exchange. We had already worked everything out ahead of time, so it was just a matter of counting the money and handing him the stuff. Less than a minute later, we pulled back up to my car when suddenly William pointed out the window and said, "Who's that?" So I looked and I saw a figure walking towards the car, but it was dark and hard to see. Eventually, I was able to make out that this person seemed to be in a uniform. Is that a cop? Oh, I think it's parking lot security. What the fuck are you talking about? This is a freaking McDonald's parking lot. There's no such thing as parking lot security. That's a freaking cop. The next part is a little hard to recall with perfect detail because it was kind of traumatic. The cop yelled something at us and drew his gun. Suddenly, like 6 more cop cars pulled up and surrounded us. The next thing I knew, there were like a million dudes standing around the car pointing pistols at us. So I put my hands up and thankfully I'm like the whitest person in the world because the cops didn't just immediately shoot me, as has become tragically common these days. They pulled me out of the car and slammed me onto the hood. They handcuffed me and they screamed something at me, but I couldn't really hear because my head was still spinning after it was slammed onto the hood of William's car. Not to mention the adrenaline rush of having 11 grown men pointing pistols at you from like a couple feet away, so for a second I just stayed very still. That's the thing, if you're under arrest, you don't have to say anything or respond to them at all other than follow their instructions. And honestly, you almost certainly shouldn't say anything. Then the cop holding me shouted, "Stop resisting," which really pissed me off because I hadn't resisted whatsoever. I was lying like a dead fish on the hood of the car. Who did they think I was? Fucking Neo from the Matrix? Did they think I was gonna like fucking anime explosion them into the air and then fly away? Like, come on. I said to the cops, "Yo, chill. I'm not resisting or anything. You guys got me. I'm a 130-pound junkie being held down by like 6 police officers. I'm not about to fucking escape. Relax." This did actually seem to put them at ease a bit, probably because they realized how humiliating they looked as they screamed and freaked out at a skinny white kid. However, the cop who was holding me then did something very strange and stupid. He reached right into my pockets. Remember, I was a junkie, and I happened to have 2 insulin syringes in there, used ones. They had the caps on them, but those things can come off very easily, or the needle can get bent and pierce through. Syringes aren't meant to be kept in jean pockets, and they're certainly not meant to be capped and uncapped multiple times and reused like that. Every junkie has pricked their thighs and their fingers fishing needles out of their pockets before. It's super common. Meanwhile, this cop just dove in there like a horny teenager on prom night, and he could have easily been pricked by one of the needles. Now, luckily, because I absolutely shared needles with people at times when I was desperate, I don't have any diseases. You know, I don't have HIV, I don't have Hep C or any of that nasty stuff, but the cop didn't know that. It was just really stupid of him to shove his hand right into my pocket like that. If you get pricked by a used needle like that, you could end up legitimately contracting an incurable lifelong disease. Like, that would be awful. After that, they threw me into the back of a cop car and whisked me away. I didn't even see what happened to William. Interestingly, they never actually arrested me. I was sitting in the back of a cop car, handcuffed, but they never actually told me that I was under arrest or read me my Miranda rights or anything like that. So I asked the police officer who was driving if I was under arrest, and he seemed very unsettled by that question, and he didn't answer whatsoever. I suspect something about the way this all went down was super illegal and not by the books, but whatever, it was a long time ago, I don't care. During the ride to the station, I finally had some time to clear my head and like think about what had just happened, and I started to realize that it just didn't make any sense. I had been in William's car for less than a minute. Why did 6 cop cars descend upon us with such certainty? How could they have known that we were doing a drug deal? I mean, sure, it'd be suspicious if they saw someone get out of their car, hop in someone else's, drive around the lot, come back, and then go to leave, but I hadn't actually gotten back out of the car to get into my own yet. For all they knew, we were just turning around before pulling out of the parking lot together, and while maybe a cop who was present would have pulled us over and checked things out, they wouldn't just run up to a car with their pistols drawn, let alone 11 cops. It became very obvious to me that I had been set up, and by none other than William. He had insisted that I come to him, he had offered me an exorbitant amount of money to do so, and he had specified the exact location that we were to meet. The moment I got in his car, the police descended upon us, guns drawn, knowing exactly what they were looking for. I had been caught in a sting operation, and honestly, it's kind of messed up. They made zero real effort to hide the fact that William had been acting as a confidential informant for the police. Yeah, when I got to the station and I was being booked, they dragged William before me and did this whole song and dance where he struggled, and they were like, "Shut the fuck up, you're going to jail," and made this whole scene. And they told me that William had warrants out for his arrest at the county jail and that's why he was being transferred. I don't know, it was some bullshit. In reality, they just let him go home because he was a snitch. Here's the really fucked up part. William was operating as a snitch for the police because he had been caught smoking a blunt in his car. Don't get me wrong, this is before weed was basically legalized here in New York. I mean, now there's stores that sell weed here in Brooklyn, but still, you're not gonna go to jail for weed. You're not gonna get in serious trouble for weed, even back then. You would usually end up having to pay a $150 fine, or maybe having to take a drug awareness course. Everyone kind of understands that sending a teenager to jail or giving them a misdemeanor charge on their record for possession of marijuana just is stupid and not fair. Unfortunately, William's parents were very conservative, and he was mortified at the notion that they would find out about his marijuana possession violation. Thus, he cut a deal with the cops to get them a bigger fish in exchange for not being charged. That bigger fish was me, selling him $20 of dope. What a fucking asshole, dude. Unlike marijuana, possession of opioids is treated much more severely, especially heroin. I finally got to the station and I was arrested and read my Miranda rights and all that stuff. I was charged with 2 felony counts of possession of a hypodermic instrument and 2 felony counts of possession of a controlled substance. Then, they sent me to jail. I used my phone call to do what any typical white kid would do, which was call my parents and beg them to bail me out of jail. Graciously, they agreed, but there was a problem. It was late at night, and if there was no judge available to set my bail, I'd need to spend the night in jail and wait until morning. I was mortified. First off, it was around Christmas time and the guard there was just singing Christmas carols while me and the other newly arrested prisoners were sitting there miserably, waiting our turn to get checked by the nurses before we could be admitted into the general population. Oh yeah, we were basically in intake. We weren't in the main prison yet. We were in this place you go when you first get to jail before you can be in the general group. Thankfully, a judge was available, and if there was one thing I knew, it was to be polite to the fucking judge. This is the guy who decides whether you're allowed to be bailed out at all, or whether you sit in jail and wait until your hearing. He also decides how much money you're gonna have to pay in bail. You don't want to piss this guy off. You want to convince him that you're not just gonna skip bail and run away. I just sat very still and answered his questions with "Yes, Your Honor," "No, Your Honor," "Thank you, Your Honor." Eventually, he asked me if I had a lawyer. As you've probably figured out by now, I was a bad kid, and this wasn't my first run-in with the law, so I actually did have a lawyer. The next part was terrifying. The judge asked my lawyer's name, and I told him, and the moment I said it, I could tell that the judge immediately just recognized my lawyer's name. He said, "Oh, I know your lawyer quite well." Then there was a good 3 seconds of silence. I had no idea what this meant. If they know each other, then ideally the judge and my lawyer are friends, or friendly at least, and that would be good. I mean, who doesn't want to learn that their judge and their lawyer are friends? However, what if the judge had followed that up with, "Yeah, I know your lawyer. He fucked my wife," or something crazy like that? Thankfully, my lawyer hadn't slept with the judge's wife, and they were, in fact, friendly. He set my bail at $5,000, which my parents put on their credit card, and I was bailed out of jail. I would eventually be sentenced to 3 years supervised probation, and upon successfully completing that, my record was sealed. It's nice because otherwise my career and my future aspirations and my whole life could have been screwed up, all because William got caught smoking pot and didn't want his parents to find out. Fucking asshole. Considering William was the one who had set me up, it was especially infuriating that he, of all people, was now threatening to reveal all this stuff about me. It already cost me and my family so much to defend myself from these charges and to get through all these court dates and the fucking house calls from probation officers and shit like that. It fucking sucked, dude. Now, this same person is demanding $10,000 cash, or he's gonna spill the beans on Theft King is a felon, which isn't even true, but if he showed you all that he had videos of me that were obviously taken from this point in my life, you would be inclined to believe him. The thing about blackmail is that even if you acquiesce to the person's demands and pay them the money, you haven't actually ensured that they won't reveal it anyway. Had I paid William this $10,000, there'd be nothing stopping them from blackmailing me again in the future when they needed more money. Eventually, I would have to come to terms with the fact that they have access to this information and it could be leaked at any time. I thought I had taken care of this with my Theft King Exposed video, but apparently not, so I've laid it all out for you guys. That's what happened. That's why I was charged with those crimes. That's why I was arrested that night. That's why that guy knows about it. You may see some embarrassing videos of a 19-year-old me shooting heroin, show up on the internet in the coming days or weeks. I apologize if any of you guys have to see that. To be honest, while I am horribly embarrassed by this stuff, I find it much more disturbing than it is cringy or embarrassing. I find watching myself on those videos and seeing me shooting up and being strung out or being unconscious, I don't think it's that cringy actually. I think it's pretty dark. I don't watch videos of myself from back then. I delete images of myself from back then because, it's scary. I know what this blackmail contains, and if it leaks, fine, I'll live. I am never going to pay anyone anything for something like this, ever. Stop trying, dude. Fucking release it. I don't care. As for the person who reached out to me about these allegations, yeah, they're true. If you want to make a video about them and release those photos and videos and stuff like that, that's your right to do. Fine. I don't think I'm the one who's gonna look bad if you do that, though. I just don't think that the fact that I was a drug addict and had been arrested and charged for having drugs and needles makes me that bad a person. I don't think it's that cringy. However, Theft King is charged with 4 felonies sounds really bad, and if that started going around, people would assume the worst. And as you can see from the length of this video, explaining the full story takes a long time. The real stupid thing that William did was ask for $10,000. My YouTube channel has been successful, and of course that's been lucrative, but not to the point that I can pay fucking $10,000 bribes, dude. If you'd asked for $500, maybe I would have given it to you, but honestly, probably not, because like I said before, if you pay off someone for blackmail, they'll just blackmail you again when they need more money.